Hey everyone, welcome back. Okay, so in the last video, I said that I was going to work on a start to finish for installing Linux and then getting Star Citizen running on that. And if you saw the last video, the performance of CachyOS hands down beat everyone, and specifically my favorite brand of CachyOS, which is GNOME. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. So if you're on Windows 11, pretend for the moment that we're on Windows 11. So you're going to go ahead and go to CachyOS.org. And I would also recommend that once you're here, go to the wiki page. And it says here on how to get started is to download Balena Etcher and then, of course, download the ISO file from CachyOS and then burn that to a USB flash drive. And then when you reboot, you're going to mash the boot select key, which is for like Asus motherboards, it's going to be F8, and then I forget what it is for others. Maybe it's Escape, maybe it's F12, but look for your brand motherboard and find out during boot. Just mash that key and then go into the boot manager and then boot from the USB drive. Before you do this, before you boot to the USB drive, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you remove every single drive from your system other than the one that you want to install CachyOS on. This is to prevent any accidental install on a drive that you didn't mean to, but more importantly, too, that the bootloader doesn't get loaded onto a different drive that you didn't mean to as well. So remove all drives other than the one that you actually want Linux installed on. Now, in Linux, for instance, like if you go to Nobara's Linux, they have several different desktop versions. So you have the official, which is based on KDE. You have GNOME. You also have a KDE version that is just like their normal desktop. The official one has customization done for gaming, etc., different launchers, etc. So, but you won't see that here in CachyOS. In CachyOS, when you go to the downloads page, it just has download the desktop edition. So the reason is during the actual install process, which I'll show you here in a moment, you choose which desktop environment you would like to actually use. And in so, but also in CachyOS, you also will choose the bootloader that you will use. So for me, again, setting up, I love GNOME. GNOME is my favorite desktop environment. It's very performant, and I also will be choosing Grub for my bootloader rather than Limine for a very specific reason, and that reason is going to be with an AMD GPU, I can make changes to be able to overclock, underclock, undervolt, etc. the AMD GPU, and I just know best how to enable those features through the Grub bootloader. So, anyways, go ahead and download the desktop edition from CachyOS, and once again, get your Balena Etcher out if you're on Windows and flash that to the USB drive of your choice. I believe it's got to be at least an 8 gigabyte flash drive, and yeah, 8 gigabyte flash drive. And once again, remove all drives other than the drive that you're going to install Linux on, and then reboot the system and then mash your boot menu key while booting. So for me on Asus, it's F8, and but again, look at your motherboard for which key that is. And then once you are booted into the USB, you're going to see this prompt here. And so now you're going to be installing CachyOS. I'm doing it on a virtual machine here because I don't want to mess up anything on my current install since it's running so well. But just go ahead and default CachyOS boot if you have an AMD GPU. You might need to do fallback mode if you have an NVIDIA card. I'm not sure. I haven't had an NVIDIA since the 3080 Ti, and my son has that in his PC. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to CachyOS default. Once it boots up, again, it's going to give you several options for which bootloader you want, as well as which desktop environment you want. Feel free to choose whichever you want. Again, I just prefer GNOME. I'm going to show you how I set up GNOME because the vanilla GNOME desktop environment doesn't look like what you've seen on my system. And is it not going to boot? There we go. Just took a little bit. All right, so you're going. This is the default KDE look. So if this is the kind of thing that you like, um, you know, which many people will and many people do. But I had a couple issues with KDE. One of them being that I couldn't enable uh, variable refresh rate on KDE version. So GNOME had absolutely no problem, as well as GNOME's built-in compositor, which is Mutter, is phenomenal. Even if you do not enable variable refresh rate, the way it draws and handles um, the graphics on a game, you almost don't need it because it's, in my opinion, without variable refresh rate on GNOME, smoother than Windows with variable refresh rate. So, anyways, we're just going to go ahead and launch the installer. And once that comes up, it's going to give you, all the normal things like, what keyboard, what language. And so select those as you need or want. And yeah, I'm on the West Coast. And so English for US, default for the keyboard. And then here we have our bootloader um, selection. So it defaults to Limine, but I'm going to choose Grub again because in Grub I know it better and I know which way to be able to enable overclocking and undervolting, etc. AMD GPUs, and I'll show you that how to do that a little bit later. So I'm going to select Grub, and then it'll ask you what you want to do. As long as you have completely removed all of your other drives and the only drive in your system is the one that you want to install CachyO on, then go ahead and choose the erase disk. That's just going to be the easiest way, and it'll automatically do it for you. It'll give you, a boot partition, home partition, etc. And then here is where you're going to choose your desktop environment. So Plasma Desktop is the KDE desktop. You can choose GNOME, Cosmic, Neri, Cinnamon, so feel free, do what you want. Again, I prefer GNOME, and that is my favorite, so that's what I'm going to choose. And again, you can kind of see a little animation here of what the GNOME vanilla looks like. And I'm not a big fan of vanilla GNOME, but with the tweaks that I give, then it is without question my favorite desktop environment. So you can see that here it has what you're going to be installing. We're not going to be installing anything else at the moment. And so we'll just hit next, and then we will just put name, and what is the name of the computer? Sure, CachyOs, and password is definitely not name. Nice and secure password like that. And then we'll go ahead and hit install and let it install. So I'll pause the video until we come back, and then once it's finished rebooting, then I'll show you what the default desktop environment looks like. All right, so I have rebooted the system after it fully installed, and this is what you're faced with. This is going to be, again, the vanilla GNOME desktop environment. And so you can see how the dock is, the dash is, dock is down here at the bottom. And once you click on the desktop itself, it kind of goes away. And so, and you have, of course, your workspaces here that you can switch to. But I don't like that the dock goes away. And if you intuitively you try to bring your mouse down in order to get the dock to come up, it doesn't show up. And so the only way is to either hit your Windows key or go up here and click on the workspaces selector up here in the upper left. I prefer my dock to be over here on the left, and with some other tweaks as well, you'll notice that there is no minimize or maximize button, just a close button. So we're going to solve all of that, and we're going to change this up so that it looks how I have it. Again, feel free to do what you want. You don't have to do it the way I do it, but I just found that this works best for me. So probably the first thing that you're going to want to do is go to the apps here, all of them, and you're going to want to go ahead and go to Cachy Update. So when you go to Cachy Update, that's going to search through all the packages and everything and look for any updates that it needs to do. And so I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this because I don't want to waste the time in order to do it. Another way of doing it is through the terminal. Oh, that's Resource Monitor. And you can start typing in, and it's Alacrity is the terminal here. And so again, there's no maximize button, there's no minimize button. I don't like that. If you double click it, it will maximize it. But in the Linux world, in order to make any changes that really could affect your system, you have to tell it, hey, I am the administrator and I want to do something. Otherwise, it won't make any changes that are actually going to hurt your system. So we do super user do. So sudo, you'll hear that a lot in Linux. So super user do, and we're going to say pacman, which is the package manager for CachyOS and for Arch. And we're going to say dash capital S, Y, and U. And what that's going to do is the same thing as updating the system like we saw with the graphical there. And so in this, it's going to ask for your password at this point. And that's normal because it's saying, hey, are you the actual administrator? Are you the super user that is going to do this? So you go ahead and put in your password, and then it'll come up with whatever is needed to be done. And then it'll ask you with another prompt, do you want to update? And you'll select Y for yes, etc. So once it's updated, and oh, by the way, if you ever want to know anything about what you're doing, don't trust anyone on the internet with terminal commands, etc. So if you want to know, you can say man and pacman, and that'll give you the manual for pacman. And you can see for a capital S for operations, that's going to be sync. It means synchronizes the packages, looks for dependencies, builds those dependencies up, and then installs them. And then we also said lowercase y and u. And so if we look at the options and we go down to upgrade options, meaning it's used with the capital dash S, and where is it? It was a capital Y and U. Here we go. So it's going to be upgrades. So you're going to be upgrading the system completely. So that's one way to do it. And so we'll just Control C to quit out of that since everything is already updated. And then you can come over here to install apps. And on install apps, this is our package manager that we have, the graphical package manager. You still could do via the terminal. So for instance, on Alacrity here, which is our terminal, so everybody hates the command line. But when you get going with Linux, the terminal and the command line really is so powerful. So again, we would do sudo pacman, and then let's say psensor. This is one of the very first things I install on any Linux distribution. It is a kind of like a little monitoring program that sits over there and tells you what your temperatures are for all your system components and everything. So I couldn't find it. So what we will do then is come over here and we'll go psensor. And you'll see that it's not in the popular applications. But if we go to the repo, there it is. So we'll select it, and then we will say install. And it'll say the packages were selected, and this is what's going to be installed. And it's going to ask you again, because it's saying hey, you're making a change to your system that could affect your system. I need to make sure that you are the administrator. So you're going to go ahead and type in your password, and then again, it's going to say, here's what's going to be installed. And so these dependencies along with the actual psensor itself. And so we'll say yes and enter. And then it's going to say retrieving the packages, and then it's done and okay. Now, so again, if you start typing in the search and you don't find it under popular applications, then maybe just come into the repos and check that as well. Another one that we're going to do is we're going to do the dash to panel. And the dash to panel is going to fix where the actual dock is located. And so we'll go ahead and select that, and we'll hit install. We'll hit OK. Once again, we're making a change, so we got to type in our administrator password, and then we're going to select Y for yes. After reviewing what it's actually going to install, we're going to say OK, and then we'll go ahead and close out of this for now. And to get to the dash that we just installed, as well as psensor, again, remember, see, my mouse always wants to come down here to get that dock to pop up, but in vanilla GNOME, that's not how we do it. So we're going to change that. So we're going to come down here to all of the apps, and for two things that we want. First, Tweaks is already installed on the system. So we're going to go ahead and go to Tweaks, and we're going to look at, fonts. You can change fonts how you want them here. You can look at the appearance, change it there, sound, keyboard. But what I'm really interested in is Windows, where we're going to enable the minimize and maximize button, etc. So we're going to get that going right here in the Windows. So under title bar buttons, we want the maximize, and then we also want the minimize button. And that pretty much takes care of that. But now we need to get to the dash program, dash to panel that we installed. So in order to do that, come over to your extensions, and we have to reboot. So let me reboot, and then that'll come up. All right, I rebooted, and again, all I did was go to the apps, went to extensions, and brought it up. And then now we can do dash to panel. And what that's going to do is actually bring it up to a panel instead of having to go up into the upper left-hand corner. But then we can also check on the extension details and click on settings. And then we can move the panel up to the left, which is what I prefer. And then you can change the size of the panel itself to make it bigger. You can make it smaller, etc. And make it how you like it and how you want it. I also prefer these guys to be up here on the top bar. And so let's go ahead and get that fixed. Okay, so to fix that panel up in the top, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hide these from the panel itself. So for the date menu, we're just going to go ahead and unselect so that it's not visible. For the system menu, we're going to unselect it as well. The desktop button, that's to show the desktop. That's that little down there in the bottom left-hand corner. And then we're going to go over to, is it fine? Yes, so fine tune. And then keep the original GNOME shell top panel. So we're going to select that. And then now we've got our typical panel with the date and calendar and our settings access, as well as the quick menu here as well. So that's it for now for getting the desktop looking and performing like mine. Again, feel free to tweak it, however you like and prefer it. And now let's go ahead and get into some idiosyncrasies, because here we have it defaulted to dark style. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch to my actual desktop so I can show you some of the tweaks that I've made. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. And when I get my system up and running, we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back on my desktop, and you can see that what I've done is how my system looks right here as well. So remember that P sensor that I was telling you about? This is it right here. And it's one of the best applications. I love. It's very lightweight. It monitors all of your temperatures for everything on your systems. But if you, for a quick tip on how to get the window to snap to the corner, while you're dragging around, just hold the shift button and then take it to the top right hand corner and then release, and then that'll do it. Now, we are in dark mode. However, P-Sensor is a GTK3 app, and GTK3 apps don't respect the dark mode because it doesn't know where to look for dark mode. So we're going to have to create a file in order to get that to respect it on every boot. So once we do that, then pretty much everything will then be in dark mode, and you don't get flash banged by the P-Sensor background there being completely white. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here, and the default files application for GNOME is files. I've also installed Dolphin, which is the KDE version, because I do enjoy the KDE version of the File Explorer. So, but just for ease, we're just going to use the default GNOME one. So we'll click on the files here, and then what you want to do is you want to come over here to your options and show hidden files. So that way, anything with a dot in front of the name is a hidden file. So if I take away the hidden files, you'll see that anything with a dot in front of it goes away. And so to get it back, we're just going to go ahead and select show hidden files. And then our config directory is where we want to go. And then we want to go to the GTK3, and you want to create this file. So the settings.ini. And so what I recommend to do is to just right click and then say open in terminal. So you know you're in the right place in the GTK3 folder under config. And you can see here we're under the config GTK3 folder. And what you would do is you would say sudo nano, and you will just say settings ini. Now it's going to be blank because you won't have this file. And so nano, again, remember sudo is going to be super user do. Nano is going to be a text editing file in the terminal itself, and then the settings initialization file. And so it'll ask for your name. So you give it the name, and I may have typed that in wrong. And so under here we have, you want to type this in exactly like this. So left bracket, capital S settings, right bracket, and then GTK applications preferred dark theme equals 1, GTK theme name equals Adwaita, dash dark. And then once you've got that typed in there, you're going to go ahead and go Control X and say click yes to save the file, and then your file will be saved. And then when you reboot, and then when you start P-Sensor, then it'll be in dark mode and it won't flashbang you when it starts up. You can also have this start up on boot. So you can say launch on session startup, and then you can also then play with the sensors and what is actually available to be seen. So you can hide some, you can move them around, you can rename them, etc. So P-Sensor, I love it because again, it'll kind of show you like after a gaming session what your max temperatures reached, and maybe you need to adjust some fan speeds in order to make sure that your system is not overheating. And so that takes care of it pretty much for the desktop, with the exception of under the display settings. When I'm normally on desktop, I do not have variable refresh rate enabled. I find it a little bit distracting because it can be a little bit flickery on YouTube videos. And so I just disable it when I'm on the normal desktop. But when I go ahead and game, then I will put variable refresh rate on and select that. Again, even if you don't have variable refresh rate selected, the compositor for GNOME is so good and so smooth that it actually looks smoother than Windows with variable refresh rate on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into some other applications that you may want before we install Star Citizen. All right, real quick, I brought back up the fresh install version, not my desktop, so that way you can see what we want to do next, which is we want to install gaming packages. So if you left this CachyOs hello prompt up, you can get rid of it by saying don't launch it at startup. But if you left it on, then you'll see here under apps and tweaks, install gaming packages. And this is definitely something that you want to do because this is going to install, Steam, Heroic Game Launcher, Lutris, Wine, etc. So it's going to install quite a bit of things that we actually want installed on the system. And so when you do that again, you're making changes to your system, so it's asking for your administrator password, and then it says here that this is all the things that we are going to install, and based on what is on your system, then that's like for instance, you see up here that it says NVIDIA. I don't have an NVIDIA card, but this is a virtual machine, so that's why it might show that. So yours might look different, but you can choose what you want to install, but go ahead and go through it and install what you think is, the defaults are probably going to be your best bet. So, the default ones. And then once that finishes up, then it'll, like I said, Steam will be installed, Lutris will be installed, Heroic will be installed, Wine will be installed. And I do recommend that after you do that to go ahead and reboot the system after that. So let's get back to my desktop and we'll keep going. Another one that we are going to want to install is Flatpak if it's not already installed. So if you go to your apps and you go to the default terminal, which is Alacrity, I also installed Ubuntu's terminal just because I don't know why. Anyways, if you go to Alacrity and then you would type in sudo pacman install, or I'm sorry, dash S with Flatpak. So if you don't already have that, so dash and then capital S and then Flatpak. So if it's not already installed, that's how you would do it. It's already installed for me, so it's not going to do anything. Then once you get the Flatpak installed, you might have to enable the repository for the FlatHub repo. This is where you're going to have all the things that you want to install via Flatpak. So you would just go ahead and copy this. So if you just do Flatpak Arch install and follow these directions here on the AI, it's pretty good. Then once you get that, then you can go over to FlatHub. If you go to flathub.org, and again, you might want to reboot after you install Flatpak as well. So then that way they will show up in down here in your apps tray. And so you'll notice that I have two versions of Firefox. This is the one that comes on the system in the normal installer. So when you do the Cachy package installer here, and you install Firefox. And then this is the Flatpak version. And the reason is on this one, as you can see, I've got uBlock Origin installed on that extension. And then this one is just vanilla, so that there is no ad blocking on that particular one. So one of the apps that I install on this all the time is Play on Linux. So again, if you just type in Play on Linux here in FlatHub, then you can click on Play on Linux and then go ahead. The install button is probably not going to work for you if you are on Arch. It probably will if you are on Ubuntu, but that's okay. Again, we're just going to go ahead and copy the text in the terminal, and then on the terminal itself, you come over here and then just paste it in there, and it would install. Now, Flatpaks are wonderful because they come with all the dependencies packaged together, and then that app is sandboxed. And I'm not going to get into permissions on Flatpaks, but you can install Flatseal and manipulate the permissions on all your Flatpaks that you've got installed. So you could also go Flatpak install or list and show everything that you've got installed for Flatpaks. So you can see that I've got the PlayStation 2 emulator PCSX2, and I've pinned it to the dock here on the left. Lots of good stuff in here. The Kdenlive, that is going to be, the video editor for Linux, the open source version of it. Now, if you don't have the application that you want here on your dash, it's as easy as finding what you want. Let's say Counter-Strike 2 Go, and just say pin to dock, and then it'll be there. And then you can just grab it and move it where you want. So now, at this point, we are probably ready for install on Star Citizen. So go ahead and boot up your browser, whichever one you choose, whether it's Brave or Firefox or any of the others that you choose. And if you do the Google, then just go ahead and go lug helper Star Citizen. And this first one under the GitHub repository, that's what you're going to want to do. You're going to go ahead and scroll down to releases. And then you can see the latest version, which came out, last week there, so just a few days ago. You're going to go and it doesn't matter which version you choose. So if you do the tar or the zip, and download that into your downloads folder. And when you do that, then, and let me just show you real quick. So when I've done it here, now you can see that I've got the zipped file of lug helper. You're just going to go ahead and say extract, and then now you've got lug helper with that version. You can see the other version that I had here, which was 4.11. Then you're going to go ahead and double click on that, and then you're going to go ahead and right click and say run as a program. Now, I've already gotten Star Citizen installed, so I'm not going to go through the entire process with you on this, but it's so incredibly simple. You're going to go ahead and run the pre-flight checks. And when you do that, it's going to make sure that you've got, Wine installed as well as Wine Tricks, I believe. It's going to make sure that your page map is set higher, which it is. If it's not, it will say, this didn't pass your pre-flight checks. Would you like us to fix it for you? When you click yes, it's going to pop up with a prompt for your password, because again, it's going to do the work for you via a terminal command in the background. So you got to put in your sudo password for that. So once you've passed all the pre-flight checks, then you're going to go ahead and click on Install Star Citizen Launcher. This does not install Star Citizen, it installs the launcher. So once you've got the launcher installed, then it's going to install it under Games. So when you bring up your Files app and you in your home folder and you go to Games, and then you go into Star Citizen, then you can see that it's got, hey, a drive C. And again, so the way Linux works on running an application is it puts it like into its own C drive, and then it will use a translator to translate all the calls into something that Linux can use. And each one of those, we call them runners. You can have different runners and use different runners for different Windows applications. And each one of those runners is then isolated to that C drive, so it won't affect another app that you may have installed under Games, because it'll run its own runner. So anyways, you go to the Star Citizen folder here, and you're going to see this SC launch SH. SH is for us a script file that will then run a terminal command. And if we open it up with text editor, you can see everything that it actually has in the script. So it's going to export some, like again, the wine prefix. Okay, so the wine prefix is going to be the Star Citizen folder here. And it's going to say the launch log is going to be running this script here, SEH, or I'm sorry, make that variable se launch.log. So anyways, Going down here, really the only thing that you may need to change or want to change is this might be commented out, meaning it's not going to run that. So you can see it turned all gray, so it's not going to start Mango HUD up. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the pound sign there, the hashtag, and allow Mango HUD to open up. And then you would come over here and then you would click save the script file. And I'm just going to discard it because I don't want to make any changes. And then at that point, you can right click on it and go run as a program. And what that's going to do is that's going to, again, start up everything and get the launcher running. And then, of course, you would have to log in. And then, of course, you would have to actually do install the game. And so once you get through the install process, that's it. Launch the game. And you're running Star Citizen. No other tweaks needed. Make your settings how you want. And then one last little bit is if you wanted to import your character from another install. So let's say you saved it to a thumb drive and all of your control mappings. You would obviously go to Drive C. So again, you go to your home folder, you go to Games, and you go to the Star Citizen, which is where it's located. Go to your Drive C. Now it's located on your C drive, like in Windows. So you would go to Program Files, and then you would go to Robert Space Industry, Star Citizen, Live. And then from here, you would go to User, and then Client, 0, and then you could import, like I said, your controls and your mappings there, and then also your character layout under what is it? Yeah, custom characters, and you can put your from your like your Windows install, so that way you don't have to remake your character, and you can import them there. Then you're ready to go ahead and fire up Star Citizen. Before you do, let me talk about Mango HUD. Mango HUD is that thing that we talked about under the script that launches Star Citizen. So again, we got rid of the hashtag / pound sign, whatever you want to call it, under Mango HUD so that it would actually launch Mango HUD. Mango HUD is basically the overlay that we have uh, that's similar to like MSI Afterburner as well as Riva Tuner, which will do the um, logging and recording of your performance metrics. So like the temperatures of something, your average FPS, whatever it may be. So when you launch Mango HUD, I'm sorry, Star Citizen, it is going to launch Mango HUD so that it runs on the overlay, and you can choose, and I'm going to show you how to set this up. So let me just pause it and show you what it looks like here in a minute as soon as it boots up. All right, so Star Citizen is booted up, and so here we are at the main menu, and you can see my Mango HUD has quite a bit of items on it. The default Mango HUD is not going to have this. And so, but I've, included the GPU. You can name it, whatever you want, the 7900 XTX. It'll show GPU load, temperatures, of course, junction temperature, fan RPM, the clock of the GPU itself, and then the watts that it's pulling, VRAM, how much we're using, the temperature of the VRAM, and the speed of the VRAM. And then CPU, we have, those metrics as well as FPS. This is our frame time graph that goes through. So it won't look like that, but I'm going to show you how we actually would get that. And the way you're going to do that is, G overlay. I don't know if it's G overlay or Goverlay, but G overlay will be in your apps tray, and you can pin it to the dock if you want. And so when you open up G overlay, it's going to default to Mango HUD, and you have some presets here that you could go through, play with it however you want. But I left it as default until I got to the performance. So I have the FPS limited to 144, which is my monitors refresh rate, because there's no reason for me, for a Star Citizen, to have higher than 144 FPS. Yes, I know that if I'm producing 200 frames per second, then the latency for input goes down, but I don't need that for myself. I just go ahead and limit it to 144. I will also choose, make sure that the FPS average and the 1% lows are selected. Those are important to me. Then for some other metrics, you can, again, say you want the VRAM, GPU load, etc., memory, junction, fans, power. So you can select all the ones here that you wish. You could have core frequencies for the CPU, the RAM usage, etc. You can have all of that. And then if you come over to the extras, then you can have FSR version. So this will tell you if you are running an FSR. Uh, it won't show you if you're using FSR that's built into the app, but if you're using the FSR built into Linux, which we may or may not go into. But I've also changed this to left shift plus F3. The reason for it is that if you hit left shift plus F2 during Star Citizen to toggle logging, then it opens up your map. Obviously, because it thinks you're hitting F2. So F3 isn't bound to anything when you're walking around. So shift left F3. Now, if you make any changes here, the duration maximum default is 200 seconds, and you can't go over 200 seconds. Well, 200 seconds doesn't work for me. I need much longer than that. I need about 7 minutes in order to do a full Daymar run to log all of my average FPS and 1% lows and 0.1% lows. So once you make all your changes, this is going to default to 200 seconds, and you save your changes. You're going to want to change that back up to something like 2000 for your logging interval. So in order to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to go over to your home folder, and again, you're going to go to config, and just like we went to GTK3 in order to make changes for GTK3 apps, we're going to go to Mango HUD, and then this is the config file that GOverlay will actually create and edit for you via graphical. But if you wanted to do it the hard way, you could come over here and enter it in the hard way and put in font size, colors, etc. But you're going to scroll down here and just add another 0 for 2000 seconds for log duration, and then go ahead and hit save on that, and then close it out. And now all of the other things that you had set under GOverlay for, showing 1% lows, all the different metrics and everything else will already be saved in there, but it'll now have the 2000 seconds instead of the default max of 200 seconds. And then that's pretty much it, except for one last thing. I know that this is getting into a long video, and I hope to put chapters in so that you can skip around as much as you want and where you want. But I talked earlier about getting your Grub bootloader set up to enable allowing tweaking your AMD GPU, specifically RDNA, what is it, 3? I think RDNA 3 is the 7900 XTX. So let me show you how to get that going, and then that'll probably be the last thing because this video is just going way too long. So in order to get the AMD GPU, you have to open up the files, and release them. I'm having a brain fart, but you have to get them. You have to unlock them. There we go. You have to unlock the files in order to be able to manipulate them and allow undervolting, overclocking, because you won't even see them. They won't even be available. So remember what I said earlier. Do not trust anyone on the internet for commands. Verify the commands yourself before you make any changes to your system, because that's just a good way to get yourself into trouble. So, but that being said, if you do want to manipulate your AMD GPU, in order to undervolt it, which is going to allow the clocks to increase higher and temps to go down. It's just a wonderful way to do it. So you can see here that I've got a sudo watch n.5 cat and then this file here. Okay, so again, super user do watch means to watch a certain file, print out what is in that file every half a second, and cat is, just copy all the text, and print it out here on the terminal. So, and if you go to the /sys kernel debug DRI1 AMD GPU info, and you got to put in your password in order to be able to access it, you can see that you can monitor your AMD GPU from here. And so you can see that you can see what the memory clock is, the GPU clock, and then what your millivolts are and what the watts of the system is, and then your loads. Then if you want to actually be able to change those items, then you're going to want to go ahead and up and edit your grub, which is your bootloader. So when it boots up, it runs your bootloader. Then anything in there sets the parameters for how it boots. Let me explain just a little bit better. So if you do sudo nano, which is a text editing within the terminal itself, and you do the etc default grub, so /etc/default/grub, that is the file that you're going to be manipulating. And if you come down here under grub command line Linux default, and this will already be in there, the no watchdog, the NVMe load equals yes. This will not be. The AMD GPU.pp feature mask equals 0 X and then FF, 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 FF. It's 8 Fs. So you're going to go ahead and type this in, or copy and paste that, and paste it in there in between the NVMe load yes and the splash log level equals 3. Then you'll go ahead and hit Control X to exit. It'll ask you if you want to save that file, which you will want to save the file, obviously. And then you'll come back here to the terminal, and now we need to rebuild grub with that new variable that we've enabled, which unlocks the GPU functions for overclocking and undervolting. When you've exited out and saved the grub file, now again I said that we need to update grub, and so in Arch it's going to be different if you're like on Ubuntu, but in Arch it's going to be sudo grub -make config option-o, and then we're going to say -boot /boot/grub/grub config. So then it'll write and rebuild the grub config file, and then you'll be booting onto that. When you do that and then you reboot, now we have unlocked the files necessary in order to do undervolting, overvolting, etc. So let me show you where you can find those files, but then we can also just do a quick command line, terminal command line, and actually underclock and change our fan speeds, etc. on the AMD GPU. Okay, so the files that I'm specifically talking about, in your home folder, that is not where all of the really, really fragile and important files are going to be. So your home folder is stuff that you can just mess with. Now, in your root folder is where all the real damage can happen. So again, don't trust anyone on the internet and say this is what you want to mess with. But when we updated our grub and we rebooted, now certain files were going to be unlocked so that we can actually see them and actually manipulate them. So if you go to your /sys and then /class, and then I believe it's DRM, this is where we get into the graphics cards. Now you'll see I have a card 0 and a card 1. Card 0 is going to be the built-in iGPU on the 9800X 3D. The card one is going to be the 7900 XTX in my particular case. So I'll go to card one, and then let's see, I can never remember right off the top of my head. Oh yeah, device. And then in here, we're going to have the, um, where is it? Here we go. Papa, so PPOD clock voltage. And if we double click on this, you can see here what the settings are for the card and what it's actually current running at. We are going to make a change, and we are going to offset the voltage on the card, and that's going to allow it to um, run cooler and allow the boost clocks to boost a little higher as well without any clock stretching. So in order to do that, so again, here's that file that we said. We're going to say echo VO-65, meaning 65 millivolts, then a pipe sign, sudo T, and then the file that I just showed you. And what that's going to do is that's going to write the file at the end with a minus 65 undervolt, and then we're going to do and echo C, meaning write C to the bottom of this file, which is going to then enable the 65 millivolt undervolt. And so before we do that, let me get some kind of a 3D application running here so that we can see the GPU under load and see what the millivolts are, and then watch the millivolts drop, and the temperatures will drop as well. So let me pause it here and get that set up. Okay, so I've got Star Citizen running on the other monitor here, and it's not quite at 100% load, as you can see here, but you should still be able to see the benefits of the undervolting the graphics card. And you can see here currently right now for the system that at one point here before the recording started, we got to a maximum of 61, junction temperature of 82, and mem temp of 76. And so but we're going to go ahead and undervolt it. So if you pay attention here to this line here, so you can see we're floating around depending on what's happening there in Star Citizen, anywhere from 1066 to 1100 and something. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and undervolt it again with this command here. So again, this appends the minus 65 millivolts to that file, and then echo C appends it as well, which actually enables it. And let's see if I can bring up both of them here at the same time. And we can watch those millivolts over here drop as we do this. And so now you can see that the millivoltage dropped dramatically. So rather than it hitting 1120, the maximum that we're seeing is like maybe 1040 there, or 1090. And so we can definitely see that the millivolts have dropped on underclocking this card. And with that, then lower temperatures and happier GPU. And if you're actually maxed out on your GPU load, your clocks will just jump up higher. You can see a couple of them we saw over 3 gigahertz there for the mem clock. So another one that I like to change is the fan speed temperature. So right now it's doing its default and fan curve. And so I want to lower the target temperature so that it maintains the same kind of ramp up and ramp down, which I find very pleasant, but I want it to be at a lower temperature target. So in order to do that, again, we're going to be another couple of commands. And so here, if we see this one right here. So again, we're going to be appending a temperature of 50 degrees to this file here, fan target temperature. And then again, we're going to append C, which actually enables it. And so then if we go ahead and hit that, and then we don't have to type in our password a second time since we did it to the other one. Now the fans will ramp up and they will then start targeting a lower temperature and lowering these and keep them from getting too high. So that's pretty much it. That's basically everything that I do for my system. I don't change the power setting on the card. Is defaulted to on the 7900 XTX to 330 watts. And I know that it can go up to like 420, but I just don't see the need for that. Um, because I've haven't noticed any benefit in performance with it. So with that 65 millivolt undervolt, I don't even see anything higher than 330 watts. And now you can see that my fans have ramped up. You might be able to hear them through the mic as well, because again, it's trying to keep that target temperature down lower than its default temperature. So um, that's it for today. Probably, thank goodness, this video has gone on for almost an hour. I apologize, but from start to finish, getting Star Citizen up and running on Linux, that's it. That's how you do it. It works phenomenally. The performance is better than you could possibly imagine. And I get that some of you won't be able to do it because of VR or certain controllers. Or voice commands that you use in order to do things in Star Citizen. But if you are interested, there you go. I hope this helps you out. If you like it, please smash that like. And if you didn't, I know that this is a terrible video, but at least the content itself is probably pretty useful and helpful. But so leave a comment if you didn't like it, and again, I'll try to do better. This is not something, that I'm very good at, but I do enjoy sharing information. So anyways, take care. See you out there in the verse.